Okay, we made it to part 4 of foreclosures. Okay, so here we go. So now you've put the offer in. You realize that you've signed the Schedule A, that it's going to be as is, where is, and you're fully grounded in all of that. Now what happens? Okay, so you get the accepted offer. You remove all of your subjects. But there's a last subject on there that we talked about a little earlier, and that's subject to court approval. Okay. Now that's not a subject that you remove. That's a subject that the courts remove. So then you got the accepted offer. The lender then goes back to the court and says, okay, we got an accepted offer. We need to set a court date so you can get approval to the deal. Okay. So at that point, they are allowed to then market the place as being with an accepted offer. Now, here's another difference between foreclosures and regular. So at this point, the lender will then tell everybody, like it's public knowledge, how much that accepted offer is for and the terms. That contract is essentially public. It's public domain. Anybody can look at it and can decipher it and decide whether or not that's a good deal or anything. And so the court date is set. The contract is made public. And everybody heads to court to get court approval. Now, what will happen at this stage is the JP, the Justice of the Peace, they will look at the offer. And they will first of all determine, okay, let's go through the first case scenario. So they will first determine, say there's nobody else involved in this situation. It's just you, nobody else shows up, you're just there. So the JP will open it, and they will look at it, and they will look at the appraised value, and they will look at a whole bunch of other factors. But first of all the terms and the price, and then they will look at the appraised value, and they will look at things like how it was marketed, and for the length of time it was marketed, and they will probably have a reasonably decent knowledge of the market because they deal with these things all the time, and they will determine whether or not this offer is good enough. And if it's not, if it's say 75% of the appraised value, and they see that the accepted date of the contract was 14 days after the listing, they may very well say at this point, nope, this isn't good enough. I want to see 85% of the value of the appraised value. And they will say, go ahead, take it out. And we're not accepting this. Take it back out to the market and put it on there. Let's see what happens after 60 days. Right. And I've actually seen that happen. Now, what can happen at this point, though, is interesting because at this point, you as the buyer, you're in court. You can actually say to your realtor, okay, whoa, wait a sec. And you can ask the judge, hey, what is an acceptable value? Like, what will you take? And he can say, okay, well, I want 85%. I want 85% of and you're only 75%. And at that point, you can say, okay, I'll pay the 85%. Or you can say, no, at that point, it's not worth my trouble. But if you say, yeah, they can adjust the contract right then and there, and everybody can be on their way, and you paid 85%. So I've seen that happen, and I've also seen where the person was like, no, I don't want to pay any more than that. That's it. And so the whole deal's squashed, and the realtor's out there, and it's his job or her job to market it again. Now so that's one scenario. Okay, so the other scenario that will happen is. Okay, well, let me follow that one up a little bit more. So another thing that can happen, though, is that the property's been on the market for, it's appraised at, I'm going to use round numbers, okay? So appraised at $1 million. And it's been on the market for 6 months, Maybe some interior property that's not near a lake and it's been on there for 6 months. It's got this appraisal, and some guy offers 50%. Okay, at that point, the judge might look at it and say, okay, well, how many showings have you had? He'll ask, all this stuff right there. He'll go, how many showings have you had? How much interest? Did you have any other offers? It's been on for 6 months, and the JP may very well take that 50% offer. It could, absolutely, right? Because he's seen, look, they've marketed, they've put it in the newspaper, they've got it on MLS, nobody's calling on this thing, nobody wants it, nobody wants the property. So that is actual market value. Like, appraisal will be gone. Like, market value is what somebody's willing to pay for it, right? That is market value. And so at that point, the judge may take it. But if he sees or she sees that, that not enough time has been put into this marketing, and I think we can get more. This thing's in Coquitlam, and this is a pretty hot market. It's a liquid market, maybe not be the hottest market, that we've ever seen, but nonetheless, it's still a Vancouver market, and it's liquid. So let's see if we can get appraised value for this thing, right? And so those are two scenarios that can happen, like right then and there, and so that again is where the process needs to be really known in order to get those good deals. Now, the other thing, and the more common thing that happens, especially in the Lower Mainland, is that you get the accepted offer. Everybody knows public. Now, at that point, anybody else could show up with their realtor or by themselves, and they can have an offer ready to go. It's subject free except for the court approval part, with a deposit check, closed envelope, and the JP will say in court, does anybody else have an offer? Does anybody else have an offer for this? And everybody can hand it in, knowing full well what the original offer is. So it's never going to be less than the original offer, because everybody knows what it is. Why bother handing in an offer that's not as good? Because it's not going to get accepted. But everybody else can hand in an offer. So I've seen 25, 30 offers go in front of the JP sometimes. And that JP will open every single one, read every one, and then they will determine based on the price and the terms. Sometimes price is not always the deciding factor. An example would be like if the original offer is $950,000 and somebody tries to put in one for $952,000, the JP probably won't take that, because they're like, no, this person's gone to all this trouble for $2,000. I'm not gonna quash a deal. But if it's like $10,000 more, then they're likely to take the upper one. And so you can get into situations where 30 offers get put in, and it just goes like one of those crazy multiple offer scenarios that you've heard about, and they can go way over asking price. Like it happens especially in the Vancouver market. And so that's another thing to be aware of. And so I'm going to do one more part, and we'll talk about some of the strategies that come along as being a buyer, and what you can do in order to try to get that better deal in front of the JP. Okay, so stick with me. One more part.